Page Kennedy, he was the black guy, yes. He reprised his role. Page Kennedy reprised his role as the black guy. Hello, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on my video, and I wanted to let you know not only do I create content on my YouTube channel here, Class in a Glass, but I'm also on Twitch where I play single-player games, multiplayer games, I do movie reviews, cartoon reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, it would be a big help if you can check out my Patreon, where you can gain access to audio commentaries, reactions, and the ability to submit questions for my podcasts and videocasts. And all that content can be found in the links below. In the meantime, enjoy the video. I'm going to review the Meg, chat, specifically Meg 2, The Trench. I gotta be honest. I don't know if I would have gone with the title Meg 2, since there seems to be so little focus on the Meg. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting ahead of myself. For those that don't know, chat, it focuses, supposedly, on a research team that encounters multiple threats while exploring the depths of the ocean, including a malevolent mining operation. Now, before jumping into the review itself and going over my my thoughts on this particular film, on this particular sequel, I do want to kind of briefly talk about killer animal movies, chat, which is a subgenre of horror. As you guys obviously know, I am a fan of a number of killer animal movies. Kind of the king of killer animal movies, I would say, is Jaws, which, Meg 2 is, and the other Meg films are definitely inspired by. But, it's always like a really fun genre. I mean, obviously, with the success of Jaws in the mid-1970s, you just had a slew of copycats that came off trying to copy, certainly the critical success, but mostly the commercial success of Jaws. Things like Grizzly and from 1976, the Alligator movies in the 80s, chat. Even Australia did their own version of Jaws with Razorback, about a mutant killer pig warthog creature, chat. So the genre has always been around, but mostly I think it's been relegated, to the smaller screen or to, streaming. I remember back in the day watching, it just felt like the Sci-Fi Channel, chat, just had numerous killer animal movies, everything from like boa versus crocodile or, Sharktopus, stuff like that. The Sharknado films, like it would just felt so at home on TV, specifically on the Sci-Fi Channel. And we've occasionally gotten some other theatrical release, killer animal movies, since and even some good ones in the 90s and maybe up into the 2000s and maybe recently. In the 90s, one of my favorite killer animal movies is The Edge. Love that film with Anthony Hopkins, Alec Baldwin, in the Alaskan wilderness dealing with a man-eating grizzly bear. Actually, a really well-acted movie, and I just thought very interesting, very captivating. And then you also had, Deep Blue Sea.
You ate my bird.
One of the better killer shark movies that have come out in the last 20 or 30 years. And then something more recently, one of my favorite movies from a couple years ago was Crawl, which was a killer alligator movie. And I thought that was quite fun. And of course, yes, we had the original Meg, but I gotta be honest, chat. I did a review for that a couple of years ago on this channel, and I don't remember a lot of it. I think it was fine. It was okay. I think part of it was almost like a little bit of Chinese propaganda, but I don't know. So much of that movie just felt really generic. It had its moments. I remember Rainn Wilson being a big personality in that film. Jason Statham, doing his thing, which is pretty much what he always does. Just acting tough and gruff, and that's it. And maybe there were some other characters in there that were, shark food. I honestly can't remember. At the end of the day, it didn't really leave an impact on me, but I guess the movie performed very well commercially. I forget how it reviewed, but commercially, I think it did extraordinarily well, somewhere around north of $500 million or something worldwide. So it's all right, I understand why then you want to do a sequel with Meg 2. I have certain questions, but don't want to get ahead of myself, chat. I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to be very blunt with this review, okay? Because this movie annoyed me. This movie really, really annoyed me because it wasted my time. It wasted the time of the other film goers I saw with chat. And you know what? I don't consider this a killer animal movie. I'm going to start off and just say that I take umbrage with the fact that Meg 2 considers itself not only a killer animal movie, but a killer shark film. Yes, it has killer sharks, it has a giant squid, and it has various other ancient terrors of the sea. Believe me, it's like, we're going to put them all in this movie. But all that fun stuff, that's at the very end of the movie. That's not the focus of the Meg 2, The Trench. The Trench is there. Yes, you have some megalodons. You have those there. But that's not what we're looking at. That's not what we're focusing on in the movie. What this film is really about, what this film really is, Chad, what this film really is Die Hard with sharks, which, again, sounds cool on paper. But in the case of this movie, it isn't. For one, the sharks and other creatures don't play as big a role in the movie as the marketing would certainly like you to believe. And it's instead primarily focused on corporate espionage, illegal mining, and just, manipulative line bureaucrats. Like, that's the real focus of this movie. Listen, it would be fine if that's like the first 20 minutes or so to establish like a sense of a story, for the movie. But that's the primary focus of this film for well over an hour. It's like, yes, we do get some megalodon action. We do get some mega action and battles with other sea creatures, like definitely towards the end. But for me, it's like too little too late. And the other thing is, you've seen it done better in a bunch of other films, plenty of other kill animal movies, Chad. Everything from Jaws to the films I brought up beforehand. It's like, even with all the resources, so much at your disposal, everything that you have in your toy box, it's like you look at your toy box and you throw all the fun stuff in there, just like, let's just talk about, environmental, hazards and the bureaucracy. It's like, I don't want to watch that in a killer animal movie. It's fine for a setup in your film. That is not fine if that's the central premise to your entire movie. The cast of characters is just, it's a complete dud. The entire cast is a dud in this. It's like, yes, Jason Statham returns, and he gets to say, my God. It's megalodon. And when he says it, it's like, it's pretty cool. Like, the way he just enunciates it, Chad, like his cadence, that accent, he's like, he sells it to you. It's a megalodon. Like, I do like that. But outside of that, it's just him doing some pretty generic action, which we've seen him do in so many movies over the last 20 years, Chad. Except just in water and on giant oil rigs and refineries and underneath the sea. But it's the same stuff we've seen from him for so long. And also, he's raising a kid from the last movie. There was like a little girl from the last movie, chat. She's here. She's irrelevant to everything, in my honest opinion, chat. But, whatever. And the thing is, he also doesn't stand out as the film's, lead. I mean, I know Jason Statham, he's led a lot of action franchises, and sometimes he's been great, other times he hasn't, but they don't give anything interesting for him to do in this movie outside of occasionally kicking ass and fighting some sea creatures. Personality-wise, when he's interacting with other people, there's literally nothing there. And the rest of the cast is terrible. I forgot. I thought like the only returning characters, like actors in the first movie, were Jason Statham. I had to go back. I checked Wikipedia. It's like, oh wow, Cliff Curtis it was in the first movie too, because I had forgotten he's here. They don't do anything with him. Paige Kennedy, he was a character in the first one. Maybe he's back. He's a tech guy. And they're there for reasons. They're for some sense of continuity. But any of the other cast members that survived that previous film, they didn't come back. They're like, I'm good. I can move on. I think I'm a little bit better than the Meg 2, The Trench. And you know what, Chad? They absolutely are. And then speaking of The Trench, despite being constantly told over and over and over and over and over again in the movie that it's an ancient ecosystem that's kind of been untouched, and it's filled to the brim with all sorts of prehistoric creatures. Like, that's like a really good premise. To me, that's like an excellent premise, for a kill animal movie. It's like, we have found this ancient ecosystem deep beneath the sea. It explodes, and all these creatures that have not been present on the earth for millions upon millions of years are now wreaking havoc, and we have these human characters who have to somehow survive against them and escape. Like, that to me is like, nothing wrong with a good, straightforward premise. As long as you have a cool threat and you have characters with big personalities that stand out, that are funny, that they can actually make you care about them, then you're golden, and there you go. I'm not expecting something that's, overly complicated, or, everything's it's an allegory, it's a metaphor. It's like, I don't care. Just entertain me. And the movie consistently fails at entertaining you, especially like during all the, like, I don't know, I would have dropped The Trench. I don't know why they even called it The Trench. The subtitle is not necessary because The Trench sucks. The Trench is boring. It's really boring. And the thing is, like, when we're in The Trench, we get people like, oh, we're going to be, honestly, it's funny because, you know, it was actually brought up recently because he had that, like, that submersible that recently imploded while, you know, looking at the Titanic, chat. And it's like, oh, but the idea of, like, being that deep under the water and the dangers of that and what could happen to you, it's like, oh, it makes you, I mean, it makes you feel almost nauseous. It's tension ridden, right? There's no tension in this movie because once we're in the trench and we have people walking on the ocean floor, you can barely see anything. There's really nothing that interesting to look at, like how especially like how the movie's shot and edited during these certain sections and how it's lit. It's like, I don't know what just happened. It's like, I guess that guy just died. I guess he's gone. Okay, and then that guy, a lot of disposable meat in this movie, Chad, that's getting sucked out of their suits. But, you know, they don't show enough of it, you know? And it leaves little to be enjoyed. And that in itself is just so frustrating because this movie is so long. It's 2 hours. And the thing is, like, I wish, honestly, I could say more about this movie, but there just isn't a lot there, despite its 2-hour running time. There's shark sex. There's shark sex in the movie, chat. So if you're into that, then hey, you got that going for you. You know, those megalodons are stupping each other now, chat. At least they're stupping one shark broad. Outside of that, nothing. And, you know, and then it's sequel bait, you know, basically like, oh, what's going to happen, you know, here, you know, this particular megalodon, nothing. You know, based on this movie, based on what they showed me in this film and the fact that the original Meg, in my opinion, despite making a lot of money, you know, had very little going for it to the point where I couldn't even remember some of the characters in that film were actually in this movie that were present in this film. I don't think that third possible movie is looking too good if this is the quality that can we expect. Like, I would almost be, it's like, you know, this movie could have been like really dumb, but if it had just been tongue-in-cheek the entire time, if it actually focused on the sea life, which is what you think you're going to go see. You know, if we're going to actually follow all these sharks and all these other ancient creatures and just weird, clearly made up prehistoric monsters, you know, but then following these human characters, battling them, surviving against them, then that would be entertaining. I think we would all enjoy that. But that's not what this movie is. I don't know if because it was budget constraints. And that's the only thing I could think of. It's like, listen, we know that, you know, we got to sell this on the Meg, but we can't really have it be focused on the Meg or any of these sea creatures. It's like, let's just have a bunch of environmental messages. Let's just, again, get into the corporate espionage and deal with the bureaucracy and illegal mining of the ocean. It's like, that is not fun to watch. Okay, especially when you are clear. They are outright lying in the marketing for this film, and that's what makes it so frustrating. Because I expect to be like, you know what, it's going to be dumb, but at the very least, there's going to be some funny stuff to laugh at. There'll be some cool kills in this movie, and it has kills, but it's the same types of kills you've seen countless times. Honestly, Chad, I mentioned the Sci-Fi Channel original movies. That Sci-Fi Channel, you know, killer animal movies. And what those movies did, those straight-to-video, cheap, terrible effects, terrible acting, they did more with those concepts than the Meg does with its own. Meg 2, The Trench, does with its own. And that's just really frustrating. I don't know. I'm going in, I was like, well, I'm not going to expect much, but I expected something. But I got nothing. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I usually encourage people like, hey, this is how I feel, you know. But hey, if you want to see, I never want to discourage people from seeing a movie. I'm like, hey, this is just my opinion. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself. You might end up liking it. But there are so many other just better films out there right now to see. whether it be Oppenheimer, whether it be Barbie, whether it be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. There's just better content out there to watch right now. Whether you've seen those movies already, it's like, go do yourself a favor and see one of those movies again, because you're going to have a better time with those films, better movies, better written and directed and acted, more interesting films than you will with something like Meg 2, The Trench. This movie to me is the very definition of a DOA, dead on arrival, no thank you, no sequel, goodbye. But that's just how I feel about Meg 2, The Trench. The movie, I think, is doing okay at the box office. I'm actually not sure. I know apparently it beat TMNT, which I'm kind of sad about, because I thought TMNT was pretty good. I really enjoyed that movie. But I don't know if it's gonna have legs for the rest of the summer season. We'll certainly see. But those are my thoughts, Chet. What about you? How do you guys feel about Meg 2, The Trench? How about you, Chet? Shut up, Meg. Indeed, shut up, Meg. Appreciate, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.